Everyone, this is Jessica Thacker with the ASA Education Foundation, and welcome to today's webinar where we will share some of our best practices on integrating ASA University into your training programs. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your comments into the questions area of your control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll collect those and address them during the question and answer session. We do plan this webinar to be about 10 to 15 minutes in length, so we will have ample time for questions, so don't hesitate to send those over to us. I'll now introduce Brandon Maskew, Customer Success Manager at Blue Volt, to get started. Brandon?
Hey, thanks Jessica, and thanks everyone for joining today. Good morning wherever you may be. Excited to join everyone again today for our third webinar in a series around best utilization of ASA University and developing a learning culture in general. I know we worked on our first two webinars. We focused on reporting and just gathering some of the data around kind of the what you can do out of the system. Today we're going to start to do, we're going to dive into some of the more practical applications around what other folks are doing. The benefit I think that we have at Blue Volt is by working with companies in the skilled and construction trades and in the industries such as HVAC, plumbing, electrical, industrial tool supply. We work with a lot of companies just like yours around developing best practices. So we're able to pool a lot of that information together to really take what other folks are doing and hopefully give all of you folks a way to apply it in your organizations. We certainly understand that all companies are unique in how you drive a culture of learning at your organization. So hopefully you'll find some of this information valuable. So what I've done today is I'm going to walk through three scenarios. I think honestly, I started with about 6 or 7 and pared it down to 3 because there's a lot of really great examples of what people are doing out there to drive a culture of learning and build a culture of learning, and taking that culture of learning and mapping it to their business outcomes and what outcomes they want for their organization. So I pared down to 3. I would invite all of you, as you know, if any of you have worked with me and Blue Volt directly, or even ASA, we have an open door. So if you want to jump on a follow-up call after today's call to really dive in on how we can help your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. So today, the first one I want to focus on is a large electrical distributor that we work with. And the best practice here is taking a set of learning and taking a wide, broad stroke of courses and mapping them to career paths or job roles. So what that means is there's multiple content disciplines, and this electrical distributor had over 1,000 courses. And so what we really worked with them to do is say, okay, let's look at the content that you have and let's start to chunk it that maps to a job role. So maybe it's someone that's coming into the warehouse and you need to take curriculum and map it to proficiencies in maintaining and managing a warehouse, because we truly believe in, as you develop a culture of learning, you can not only train for the role that they're in now, but you can look 2 or 3 roles down the line in developing that employee to have some succession planning and some career pathing. So we're able to work with them to take out of 1,000 courses, we took about 150 and we chunked them into learning paths or training tracks. And by doing this, they were able to take a brand new employee and give them not just a 30-day path or a 60-day path, but more of a 9 to 12-month path around what they can expect and how they can expect to learn and grow. They found that it's over the course of the last 12 months, we've been working on this program for about 2.5 years. They're really now, instead of hiring warehouse managers from outside the organization, they're able to create a culture of internal promotion. It's made them a better place to work. It's made them a more attractive place to work. So the best practice here, and I just picked out one example around the warehouse, but you can certainly take this to other parts of your organization, whether it's from a sales perspective. Is it starting somebody on in inside sales and then moving them to the counter and then moving them to outside sales and then to management roles? Is basically segment your training for specific job roles. The common example that I use is you would never want to have your accounting staff have visibility into forklift training. It just doesn't map to their discipline and their job role. So you want to chunk training out, and you really want to have an understanding of your organization. The last point I want to make here on this is extending it to branch managers. And you say, well, why would I want to do that? My branch managers have already shown a proficiency in their job. They've already shown the ability to perform at a high level, otherwise they wouldn't be a branch manager. We've found that cultures of learning and developing an organization that has a strong learning culture can only be successful if leadership buys in. So if branch managers and regional managers or sales managers or whoever your management and leadership team is, if they're also held to the same standards and then they're also given the same opportunities for career pathing and furthering their career, and they're bought in, then the likelihood that they'll drive that culture and they'll drive that messaging down to the newer employees, the likelihood will only be stronger. So career pathing, we feel like, is essentially important, especially if your company has learning that stretches across multiple disciplines. The second is, I think, the next step down from that is focus on training that's important and matters to your organization. And it's really important here that you understand how the organization is made up, what roles you're onboarding or promoting more or less often. You may also, on the other side, you may see gaps. You may see, sales data or sales information that isn't really mapping to your overall business outcomes, and there may be opportunities there to increase those efficiencies, increase those outcomes through learning. So I think it's important to not take learning and throw everything at your people, but to take the learning that's important and start there. The important thing that I always talk to our customers about at Blue Volt is they always want to tackle the world in a day, right? You want instant success, and you want success from day one, and you want to maintain a high level of success from day one. I totally get it. We want that too here. But I think it's important to get a quick win, whether it's one product training course, and I'll dive into this example here in a second, or one safety training course. Start with quick wins, get buy-in amongst your people. We're working with a large plumbing manufacturer in the Midwest. Instead of launching with many courses like our electrical distributor did, they decided they were going to launch one course, and they're going to launch one course every 3 months. This to the right here, this graphic shows they launched in April of 2015, and this shows the spike that they received just by launching one course. And they had a focused, targeted audience that they wanted to release to this one course. They also decided, and you'll see another spike in August, they decided that they were going to kind of drip their content to their audience, to their sales channel, so they were going to release a course every 3 months. They used an email and communication campaign to drive new and return users. They had buy-in from leadership. Another important thing is installing learner feedback, a learner feedback mechanism. We highly recommend getting feedback from learners. We recently ran a survey across a lot of our associations, including ASA. The survey was directed specifically to end users. I think it's really important that you get feedback from your learners and feedback from your people. While it won't drive all of your learning and how you develop all of your training, it certainly can help you design and deploy learning that matters to your people, because you want to get good feedback. Also, they feel empowered and they feel involved in the learning culture if they're able to give feedback. So the best practice here is identifying a champion to drive the training. Identify your audience, identify a leader and someone that can push communication. They focused on what's important. So they didn't want to, they have many products, but they focused on one product, and they focused on one product course that they wanted to drive. They recognized right away that by releasing one course every 3 months, it was going to drive learning, it was going to drive return behavior. But it's important also to look at the metrics and adjust accordingly. And finally, they're getting feedback. They consistently get feedback, because it's what it's doing for this manufacturer is that it's helping them build courses for the future. So based on the feedback that they're getting and things that their users like and dislike about a course, they're able to build content in the future that maps to success. Lastly, and this is a fun one for me, because I'm consistently talking, whether it's at a HVAC conference or an industrial tool supply conference, this is the question we get asked most about, and this is what most of our questions and our conversations center around, is the carrot and the stick. Is when should I offer incentive? When should I offer incentives? When should I require training? And how should I integrate the two amongst each other? There's certainly all kinds of training out there that I think you should incentivize. We have statistics out there. I think that recent survey we did, I think 73% of end users said they would take a product training course, or they would be more likely to take a product training course if it offered an incentive behind it. That's a big number. And you know, if any of you are familiar with the Blue Vault system, you all know about Blue Bucks. And certainly incentive dollars can go a long way. But I think it's really important to strike a balance between the two, because we certainly understand that there's benefit to offering both. And I think when you offer incentives, and by the way, incentives can really be anything. Incentives can be either Blue Bucks, which is the gift card redemption program straight out of Blue Vault, or if it's, you know, a competition between branches as far as who can complete the most product training in a month, and then you buy them lunch, or maybe you match Blue Bucks. I think it's important to strike a balance with both, because there's certainly training out there and there's certainly learning out there that is a simple job requirement. You know, your warehouse drivers or folks in the warehouse have to know how to perform you know, safe lifting exercises or forklift safety training. I mean, that's a core part of the compliance and safety component of your organization. So I think it's important to strike a balance between both. So here you can see I termed it as Blue Vault electrical distributors, just because we have many of our distributors. In fact, just from a conversation I had last week, this extends out into other industries as well. But one distributor in general, they require 20 hours of training every year on a performance evaluation. So when I go back to developing a culture of learning, I think it's really important to, as you map career paths and you pick the training that matters to your people, build in a requirement and build in into a yearly or annual performance evaluation a requirement of training. It shows proficiency, it shows empowerment, it shows the want to get better. So this electrical distributor requires 20 hours of training every year. They do it as a mix between the Blue Vault platform as well as in-person, on-the-job training, classroom training. They also run branch contests for learning goals. An example from a couple weeks ago is an HVAC distributor that we work with has 10 branches. They have a key supplier that just released a brand new product. Along with that product, there were 4 training modules. So they decided that the branch that finished those 4 training modules prior to a manufacturer's rep visit received lunch. So what it did was it allowed their salespeople to learn about the product prior to the manufacturer's rep coming to do a lunch and learn. They feel like it improved the efficiency of that manufacturer's rep visit because they already knew a little bit about the product. And again, I think I mentioned this a bit ago, online and in-person mix for job promotion. So if somebody wants to get promoted from inside sales to the counter, not only do they have to train in person or learn how the counter operates, learn how to answer the phone, and learn how to interact with customers, but they've got to go online and they've got to take that product training that maps to getting the product recommendations from the contractors and from the end users that come in. This is where culture is really important for me, is to really, because you don't want to overextend incentives, but you don't want to require so much training that folks dread the day that they have to go in and take training. So you certainly want to map this to your organization's culture. You want to get feedback from your folks and understand what is a common balance. You know, is it 50-50? Is it offering an extra incentive at the end of the week or end of the month? Secondly, don't be afraid to try something new. If you've never offered an incentive for training in your organization, try it out. I mean, it can go a long way. Not only for developing your employees, but just creating some camaraderie or interaction amongst your people. In talking to, again, some HVAC folks last week, they had one of their folks that has really gotten involved in the Blue Vault platform and taking product training, who they're seeing a lot of progression from. This person walks around the office and shows everybody the Amazon gift card that they just got in the mail because they're proud of it, and it develops a bit of competitiveness, and it can go a long way as far as developing a culture. So, and it doesn't cost a lot. I mean, to have a quick branch contest where you pay out lunch or you pay out an extra $25 in a gift card, it can go a long way to mapping to results and effective outcomes within your organization. And that today is all I have. So I really appreciate you letting me go on for a little bit, but I will turn it back over to Jessica to see if there's any questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Brandon. We do have a couple questions, but keep in mind you can continue to ask questions as we answer. So the first one was, do you find it beneficial to have an employee take training for a possible future role while they're still in a current role? So I think it sounds like something moving forward.
Yeah, so you know, this is something that I believe and something we practice even here at Blue Vault. I think it's always important to, because you never want to be left, and this maybe maps to outside of industry, but we have heard this. I mean, you never, if you have a senior manager that you're perfectly comfortable with, this person will never ever leave, and all of a sudden that person walks into your office on a Monday morning and says, you know what, I've had enough, I'm leaving, and you're left holding the bag because you're not developing employees underneath that person to succeed them. So I think it's really important to, and plus it creates employee engagement. If you're investing in their future, if you're mapping career paths to level them up, I think it can only help. So I think it's important, but, you know, not too much. You know, you might want to give them just a sprinkling or just an idea of what else is possible for them in the organization so they don't get stagnant. But I think it's certainly important to develop learning programs, or at least guide them in a direction that might give them an idea around a success path. Good question.
So the second one was, how can you identify what courses a current employee takes so that the training matters most to them? So not necessarily a new, it sounds like, but maybe how do you decide what that training would be for a current person?
So, and Jessica, this may be where you might be able to help me out a little bit. I know, obviously, focusing on the here and now, you can pull reports out of ASAU to see, what courses John Smith is taking, and whether one, it even maps to his job role, but two, what else is out there. And now, Jessica, you guys are developing some more materials around exactly what is in ASAU and how it maps to specific career paths?
Yes, we do. So we have curriculums as well as job descriptions, and the piece I think that fits in perfectly here is the on-the-job assessments. So those a manager can do in 10-15 minutes and see what areas a person might need additional training on or where they're really excelling. So we definitely have those available. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay, cool.
So the next one actually I can take as well. So it's about the blue books. It says, does ASA offer blue books? So ASA directly does not offer any blue books. You will see if you're in our university that some of our courses have blue books, which would be our manufacturer training, and those are all set by manufacturers directly. So incentivizing training will come directly from the company itself rather than from ASA. So that's why as an organization we can't offer blue books directly.
Okay. But yeah, the supplier courses, it's funded by the suppliers.
Perfect. Another is, do you have any suggestions on how to get your branch managers to hop on board with training when the training costs come from their branch's bottom line?
Well, there you really have to start to map to, and Jessica, I probably will let you come in on this as well. You really have to start to map to outcomes. If a branch is running a P&L, if I understand the question right, you might want to look and see where the gaps are and where improvements can be made. You might find that, and this I think goes back to this point on focusing on training that's important. Again, you don't want to throw everything out there. One, to your question from a cost perspective, but two, you don't want to overwhelm your learners. But I think if you identify gaps or identify potential opportunities within your organization, you might see that investing a little bit will help on the return. Maybe, again, just throwing this out there, maybe your retention numbers are out of whack, and maybe you have a bunch of folks that are leaving your organization, and you're able to identify that part of the reason of that, and so you're spending a lot of money on bringing new people in. So you're able to identify through career pathing, and if you really build out a 9-month succession and career pathing, you're able to keep folks longer and develop more knowledgeable employees. So it'll probably vary, based on organization and branch, but I'd say investing in training and learning that's meaningful and important to your organization could get you more return on the end.
Great, thank you. We have some best practices too that we can share directly. So if anyone has that particular question, don't hesitate to reach out, because part of it is building it into budget for the year, that kind of thing too. So I think Nicole, you had asked that question. Feel free to reach out to us directly on that, and I can follow up on some other best practices that we have as well.
Oh, and on Jessica, and on the incentives too, you guys are developing some more. I know I focused on Blue Bucks because that's kind of a Blue Bolt thing, but I know you guys have some other ideas on incentives as well.
Absolutely, and I'll go ahead and attach that when everyone does get the recorded webinar, just so that you've got it. So I think this one is probably our last question, unless any others come in. How do you help change the learning culture of a company that's currently not doing much in training at all to get managers to let their people take courses when they don't do anything now? So how do you start, I think?
Yeah, so I would start small and start with a focused audience. I don't know the size of your organization, multiple branches, multiple people, but I would caution against trying to throw it out to everybody. Whether it's a brand new employee, whether it's someone that you've identified in your organization, hey, this person can be a future leader or manager of our company or of a branch. Maybe you pick out one or two people to try it out with and find training that maps to their role. So maybe they are, and I think the quickest win would be find a counter salesperson and send them to ASAU and have them take product training. Have them take the product training modules that are on there, and then over the course of a couple months compare how they're doing, because there's tens, if not close to 100 product training courses on there right now for them. Take how they're doing, see how their proficiency and level of engagement is within the organization. See if they're more confident on selling a product because of the product training, and map that against the folks that don't take training. Because I think if you were to find a quick win and somebody that embraces it, you'll find that it might help spread across the organization. But I would not start. I would caution against starting big, many people and a lot of content. I would focus small.
Great, that's exactly what we say here. So kind of start small, maybe pick one role at your organization or one branch to focus on, and kind of go from there, get the success to build upon, and then continue training. We had a fun comment as well, safety training. If you see anything lagging in safety, that's a pretty quick buy-in for managers to know how to easily see how training can affect their staff. So that's great. And then again, the assessment tool is very helpful in determining where to start with an individual employee. So I think that is all of the questions that we had on there. We did have a question about webinar 1 and 2, which we definitely do have available on our YouTube channel. So I can send that to anybody directly as well. This webinar will also be available as a course within the university, and you can get a direct link within the next week from us. If you have other questions, though, please don't hesitate to reach out to Brandon or myself. You can contact me directly at jthacker@asa.net. And then again, once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey and in about a week, the recorded follow-up webinar with that incentive form. If again, anything else comes up, don't hesitate to reach out because we are here to help. On behalf of ASA University and Blue Volt, we thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will be sending out information on our next webinar for June.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Take care.